Hello and welcome to the 12 Months to Marathon podcast with me, John Hill, the running podcast for the over 35s with Marathon Dreams, episode 41, Common Race Day Errors. Now, of course, this is an evolving thing because people are going to be doing marathons in the future, but of course this weekend is a big weekend because it's a big marathon weekend. We've just had Boston. This weekend we've got two big marathons in this country, in the UK where I am. We've got London and we've got Manchester. There's also a couple of other small ones as well around the UK that I know about. And there's probably some more around the world, so pardon me if I've missed those. But it's a big marathon weekend because the UK's two biggest marathons are this weekend, and of course one of the biggest in the world in London is this weekend. A very iconic event. I've done it twice. I'm very fortunate. As I record this, I'm wearing my finisher t-shirt from 2024, and as I record this as well, the ballot has opened for London for next year, for 2026. So if you've entered that, good luck on that. So it is a big marathon weekend. Of course, there's going to be more marathons in the future. So it's also a big weekend for me in the sense that I have some people in my coaching program, my running coaching program here at 12 Months to Marathon, who are doing their first marathon. We've got a couple doing London and a couple doing Manchester, and it's a very special time for me to help these wonderful people who have been very committed and very coachable, some of them to do their first marathon this weekend, which makes me very proud and very honoured and privileged to do what I do. So that's a fantastic thing for me as well. So what's going on with me at the moment? Well, I've got a half marathon a week on Sunday as I record this, so just over a week's time, and that's the Birmingham Half Marathon. Fantastic event. I've managed to get all of my metrics fairly back in line after having the flu, so my VO2 max is back up to 54, which is where I'd like it to be. My resting heart rate has got down to 41, which is good. Usually it's about 40, which is fantastic, and my heart rate variability is back up to balanced, so everything seems to be back in line, which means that I can enjoy myself next Sunday as I record this and have a good go on the 4th of May in the Birmingham Half Marathon. No aspirations from me in the sense of I'm not going for a PB or anything like that, because my half marathon PB was very fast. It was kind of a bit of a freak performance in a half marathon I did 23 September. So yeah, that was that. So yeah, that's it. And then as I record this video, I've entered Hyrox again for October in Birmingham here. The Hyrox event, if you don't know what that is, HYROX. It's an endurance event which incorporates running particularly. It is a runner's event, but it's also got some other things in there, some weights and some sled pushes and pulls and other delights like the burpees. So I've entered Hyrox again because I've got a goal I want to achieve there and get another monkey off my back to add to the sub-3 marathon, my second sub-3 marathon that I did this year. Right, so let's get into common race day mistakes for marathons. So, this is based on my experience. It's based on things people have told me, but more importantly, it's based on things that I've done. Things I've done myself and things that I've seen. So, yeah, there's nothing more complicated than that, really. So I'll keep it nice and simple for you. The first one I mentioned on tapering, and I'll mention it again, is because a lot of you may be going to expos as I record this, maybe tomorrow as I record this, or you might have been already. And it's easy to fall foul of the FOMO thing and change things last minute. So I mentioned it on the two tapering ones. I'm going to mention it again. Don't change anything last minute. Stick to your plan. Stick to what you tested, particularly from a nutritional and fueling standpoint. Okay? Don't change anything because you could knock yourself off course. And that's easily done when you're at an expo and you see the magic beans and you see the stuff being pushed and you see everyone trying to sell you stuff. The truth is, should I say this? I'm going to say it. I don't think it's right that you should have people maybe pushing stuff on you at an expo because you're doing a marathon a couple of days later. And from my experience in terms of marathons, you should be tested in terms of everything that you've done. Everything that you've already done should have been tested and tweaked. So you shouldn't be being forced to buy different stuff, if that makes sense. Ultimately, you're an adult and it's your choice whether you buy it or not, but I just think that's a bit odd in my opinion. And this isn't the same stuff. So let's say you buy the same pair of socks that you always wear at an expo, that's fine. Or you buy the same gels that you always use. For me, that's fine. But don't do anything different nutritionally or fueling wise at the last minute. That's the first one, and it's worth mentioning again. The second one is I'm going to talk more now about the race itself, the day itself. Now, just a quick disclaimer, because I call it a race, so ignore. So it doesn't really matter where you're at in terms of ability pace wise. I call a run a race. It just makes it easy to decipher what it is versus your training. So on race day, the first thing you need to remember is that it's yours and yours alone, and you are not competing with anything else except the distance and you when it gets to a certain point. So particularly at the start, when you've got that early race enthusiasm, you need to keep a lid on that, because, and I'll say this, and it's not personal, far too many people fly off too fast. And they don't appreciate the fact that they're about to run 26.2 miles. Now, the first 5K is very important because that's your... It's like, I always use the example of like a cat on a bed when it's trying to find the soft bit, it's trying to find its place. That's what you're doing, I think, in the first 5K, particularly if it's your first one. You're trying to ground yourself a little bit to try and get that right pace. Now, a really good question to ask in the first 5K is, can I hold this pace for 26.2 miles? If the answer is no, slow down, okay? There's nothing wrong with doing that, because there's a reason why there's the old saying, isn't there? It's a marathon, not a sprint, because it is. So you've got to be able to hold that pace for that distance, all right? And you've got to be able to keep that under control. Distance running is about control, particularly marathon running. And if you've got any aspirations about hitting PBs and doing that, you've got to be in control, particularly in that first 5K. So don't look around too much. And what I mean by that is, it's easy to go, oh, that person's doing that, that person's doing that, that person's doing that. Now, when I did my last marathon in Wales, there were probably around 20 people that were either around or just ahead of the 3-hour marker guy. And we finished with about 6 or 7 of us. And the reason why I use that as an example, again, nothing personal, is that I noticed that some people went flying out and we overtook them in the final third. Now, that's race management, okay, because there was quite a few. And race management's really, really important. So whether you're going for a PB or whether it's your first one, race management's really, really important. So it starts in that first 5K. Can I hold this pace for the whole distance if you can't slow down? Negative self-talk, third one, negative self-talk. Now, what you've got to bear in mind that our physical state matches our mind, and your mind is incredibly powerful, okay? Because you can decide whether or not you achieve what you want. Because if you're physically not able to do a marathon, or you're physically not ready, that will come across quite quickly. A lot of the time what we do is we convince ourselves that we can't do it, and then that manifests physically, if that makes sense. So be careful around your negative self-talk in the sense of how it affects your physiology. And what I mean by that is your head can drop, or things like that, or your shoulders dip. Be strong in your posture. You know, be strong in your positive self-talk. I've trained for this. I'm finishing this. And have that clear visualization in your mind of finishing the run. What is it going to feel like? What you're going to see? What you're going to hear? What you're going to smell? You know what I mean? What you're going to eat? What you're going to drink? All these kind of things. Create as many sensory inputs as you possibly can to give you that impetus to get it finished. Yeah. And that will really, really help you out, because negative self-talk is incredibly powerful, particularly when you get to the really tasty bit of the run, which for most people, particularly newcomers, will hit you probably around 17 to 23 miles. I think that 10K, I think once you get to 23, you're nearly there, all right? And there's going to be, particularly if you're doing a big marathon this weekend as I record this, you're going to be in an event where there's crowds, where there's people, you know, bigging you up and cheering for you and saying your name. It's quite awe-inspiring, particularly those of you doing London. That's amazing. I mean, Manchester's very well supported as well. London's different level, particularly when you come into the last 5K. It is different level. So the crowd will help you in that last 3 miles. But I think usually my problems when I first started marathon running were 17 to 23. So you've got to manage your negative self-talk, and you've got to do that by positioning your posture in a good way, having things to do that keep you on point, and then as in your mind, or markers, or, you know, when I get to this distance, I'll have a gel and that's my next marker, or when I get to the next distance, I'll have a gel and that's my thing. That was the way I do it, which will lead me on to my next point briefly. So have a strategy in place for navigating your negative self-talk, and then the last but one is the penultimate one, is what I just mentioned. So segment the race. So I do it every 4 miles because I know I have a gel every 4 miles. So when I do mine, it's right, 4 miles to gel, then it's 4 miles to caffeine, caffeine gel, and I treat that as almost like a placebo. Yes, it's of course got physical benefits having gels and having carbohydrates in run, but yeah, I use that as my thing to break it down into segments. So I'll get to 4 miles, I can have a gel, or I'll get to this distance, I can have a gel, or whatever it might be for you. Make sure you segment it down into parts, because that will help you break up the whole thing. And it's really as simple as that. I use gels, you can use whatever suits you to be able to do that. And the final one, which I think is important, which is a uncontrollable, is weather. Now, by the looks of it, it's going to be towards the middle of the day on both. It's going to be fairly warm. Warmer than you would perhaps like, potentially, particularly if it's your first one. Here's what I'm going to say. Firstly, you can't control that. It's not your fault. So stick to your plan, particularly stick to all your plans pre-race. Don't change anything pre-race, but you might have to change your in-race hydration strategy a little bit to compensate for the heat. Okay, I've done 2 marathons, particularly, which ironically were my first 2, where it was very, very hot. And I did okay, but, you know, there was a lot of hydration involved. And a quick tip on hydration, don't be proud. If you need to chuck some water over your head, that will cool you down no end. Okay, so if that works for you, do that. So what the real key thing there, going back to the mindset stuff, is don't let it affect you too much from a mindset perspective, because it can really get to you. That can, the heat. It's like, because I know people who are constantly checking the forecast. It is what it is, and you can't change it. And if you have to change your expectations of time or whatever it might be, just to finish and get you round, then that's what you've got to do. And that's okay. It's only your pride that's going to get hurt. I remember a few years ago when it was a London Marathon, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 2018 when it was boiling hot, 25 degrees. There were people who were missing their PBs by 25 minutes. Good, accomplished, sub-3 marathon runners who were missing their PBs by 20 minutes because of the heat. That's all show you what the heat can do, but we can't control it. You can't control anything to do with the weather. Focus on what you can control, enjoy the day, and manage your hydration strategy in race. I wouldn't change anything pre-race, because I don't think it's going to make that too much difference, but that's a fueling issue, which is a bit more technical. So as I always do with these podcasts, I kind of just say things. I don't really sit here and write out what I'm going to say. So hopefully that helps you for your marathons this weekend and marathons in the future. Of course, we can revisit these things, and we always will, because again, it's an ongoing thing. And hopefully I'll have some really cool guests for you over the next few weeks and months of people who've done marathons at this time of year, who are going to share their experiences and stories, particularly if you've got maybe an autumn one planned and it's your first one. So trust you. I've said 3 things to my running coaching community. So relax, breathe, and trust yourself. What that means is now's the time to relax, now's the time to get ready for the race and get excited. This is the victory lap. This is the celebration of the work you've done. If you've trained for it, brilliant. This is a celebration of the work you've done. If you haven't trained for it as well as you would like and you're still doing it, well done. You've got courage, and you're about to learn a lesson about training potentially, but don't let that stop you from doing it. That's just a physical thing. It's not a personal thing. Doing a marathon is an amazing achievement, and it's an amazing thing to do, and it will stay with you always, particularly if you're doing one of the bigger ones. It will stay with you. It's an incredible experience, and I can't put into words how much it's meant to me to be able to do some of these runs in some amazing places and some in some amazing cities, some amazing crowds, and the whole thing, and achieve some amazing things myself personally on my own thing as well. So enjoy it. It's a privilege. If you are doing one of the majors, or you have done one of the majors, particularly the difficult ones to get into, particularly, that's a privilege. All marathons are a privilege. All movement is a privilege. This is a real privilege. So go well. Please feel free to drop me a message over at 12 Months to Marathon on Instagram and let me know how you get on. Thank you very much for all the kind words and support. I do appreciate it. Don't forget, with this podcast, excuse me, to like and share, and particularly give the star ratings on Spotify. That's really helpful. That means a lot to me, and it really helps. So I do appreciate that, and sharing it as well is also important. And if you need any help or support or any little final bits of inspiration, don't forget to go and follow me over on Instagram at 12 Months to Marathon. It's been a fantastic spring. It's been a fantastic lead into the big marathons this year in the UK particularly. Thank you for all your support. Go well. Let's enjoy it, and I'll speak to you soon.